Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, fight fire with fire. How do you deal with a bully? You have to stand up to the bully. Why? Because the bully will do what the bullies always do, being bullies, obviously. I know it sounds idiotic, but that's the way it is. And you have a choice when you encounter a bully or a bully attacks you or contacts you. You have two choices, or maybe three. One, take care of the stuff right there on the spot at the first demand. You react, you might lose, but he's going to think twice if he's going to try again. Second, wait, try to appease the bully, and then eventually you have to fight after you wasted all this time, and in the meantime he took from you your pride and other things, and then you end up with the same result that you would have ended in the first example, the first step. And the third one, don't do nothing and just get by the bully. Well, the Russians picked the second option with the bully, which is and now they're here and they're beating the bully, and the bully is very surprised, very astonished that the Russians are capable to withstand their garbage. And I'm talking about Al Capone and the vassal states. So I have three articles here. One, China enters Europe militarily. It's having some joint military exercises, not with Russia. Stay tuned. And that is Belarus. That's the first one. So instead of making things better for the bully gets kicked in the teeth, and they don't like it a bit, because it started an alliance which is growing, a second club, as I call it, the club of the very good, or the good, not the plantation, and they triggered that. They will lose in Africa, they will lose in Central and South America, they are losing in Asia, and little by little, even the vassal states of Europe will switch sides. Some of them. Why? Because they look around and the little countries have to have a protector, unfortunately. The weak countries, unless you are, I don't know, a country who has balls and say, you know what, you. Now they have an alternative, which is the club of the good. So China and Belarus conducts joint military exercise right next to NATO. Like NATO, these guys come close to NATO, not NATO came close to Belarus. No, it's the other way around. See how these guys are making it? But it's CNN, what do you expect? There's the first article, first topic. The second topic is, remember, I said this for many times, which is the bully tries to open a second or a third or a fourth, it depends how many they need, front. But they don't want to use their own troops. They want to use those countries' troops against Russia. And I said in the Caucasus, and they want to activate Georgia and Armenia. Armenia is a landlocked country, so it needs Georgia for transfer of goodies, military aid as they call it. Now Armenia is in big doo-doo, but Georgia was supposed to have a little joint military exercise with the Americans, and the Americans postponed it indefinitely. Why? What did the Russians do? What kind of threats did they offer? You do that, we're gonna come to Cuba, or maybe, I don't know, maybe Mexico, Nicaragua, Venezuela, I don't know, we're gonna figure it out. So there's the second topic. The bully loses all over, including in Ukraine. Putin said in the interview, if you remember, with Tucker Carlson, we offered the Americans, or the West, many opportunities to save face. It's up to them to grab them and communicate with us. That is, stop the garbage, you lost, and you're going to keep losing it. And you know who's going to lose? Not Biden and Trump and Borrell and these garbages. No. You, I, our families, and so on. This will be the biggest losers. Aside from the Ukrainian nation that is by... right. So there's the second topic. And the third topic is another evidence that the bully lost. Miscalculated, or they said, you know what, we're going to just divide the world. We lost, but we're going to divide the world. We're going to make sure there's going to be Cold War, I don't know, part 5 or something, which is very concerned, the bully, with Russia and India getting together. Who created this garbage? You own a mirror, go and look into it. You lost China, you lost Russia, you lost India, you make too many enemies, and these enemies are big enemies. They're not like, I don't know, no offense here, Yugoslavia, or what, 4 million Libya, or Saddam Hussein's 24 or 22 million people, or the Bedouins, the whatever, the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. Even that, they took what they needed and then they lost it to what? To Russia, Iran, and China. You're losing. What are you going to do? Are you going to be that crazy to bankrupt us? You're going to turn us into really, really tyrannical countries and tyrannies? So let's look over these three topics. Let's start with the first one. CNN, China and Belarus conduct joint military exercises right next to NATO and EU's border. Look over a map and see where Belarus is and where the Americans are, for instance, and where NATO was initially in, let's put it, 1991. So who moved towards whom? Yeah, it's true. It's next to their border. I don't know that now they have a real border over there. NATO has a real border. NATO is a country now. Owned by whom? United States of America destroys Europe. Is the biggest loser in all this is Europe in this. Why? Under the, how do you call it, the disguise of helping, the Americans are helping the Europeans, even though everything happens on the European territory, they come and bring troops over, they bring infrastructure, they make you buy guns, you give the guns to the Ukrainians, the guys are fighting over there, we are invading with our LNG and other products that we made you sanction yourselves from the Russians. Who sanctions the Russians? Actually, you sanctioned the Americans. Don't see the pain of the sanctions. The Europeans, not even the Russians. The Russians, it seems like their economy is doing the greatest among everyone involved in this garbage, including Ukraine, the European Union, and the United States of America. So who benefits? Not Ukraine, not the European Union, not United States of America. Or United States of America has its benefits because it's going to take the vassal states and going to turn the vassal states into dependents more than they were before. Why? That's the boogeyman that I activated. Good job, idiots. Let's move on. So this is from today. This article is from day July 9th, 2024. Belarus and China kicked off 11-day military training exercises Monday, Belarus Defense Ministry said, with activities taking place just miles from the border of Poland, a NATO and European Union member. Poland. Yeah, but Poland is arming itself. With whose weapons? The private corporations, arm manufacturing companies in United States of America. Again, not from Rheinmetall in Germany or the one in France. I can't remember the garbage name, but anyway, no, it's the Americans. All right, the joint anti-terrorist. Who are the terrorists? Training attacking Falcon. Exercises in Belarus with military personnel from both countries, and I'm quoting, act together right now over you. As one unit in certain stages, Major General Vadim Donsienko of the Belarusian military said in a Telegram post, and I'm quoting, events in the world are complex. No shit. The situation is complex. Therefore, having studied new forms and methods of conducting warfare, here we will work out all these moments considering all that is new has been learned in the past 2 years. So the cards were redealt by the Americans, and now these guys adjust, hey, you play with me, all right, footsie's on the table, and so on. All right, so it says the joint exercises are being held at a training ground near the city of Brest-Litovsk, remember that one? Please study that, and you see how the Germans and good countries helped with Brest-Litovsk. It's a very important treaty over there, if that's the same Brest that I'm talking about right now. Brest at the Belarus-Poland border and some 40 miles from Minsk border with Ukraine. They come as Russia's invasion of the country more than 2 years has hardened geopolitical divisions. Now, the Russians wanted negotiations, remember? Someone else said, no, we're not going to negotiate with you. We're going to have our weapons in a neutral country that we helped overthrow a legitimate, democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych. So, who are the good people? We are. Why? We identify ourselves as good. Like you go in front of a court and say, I'm good. Why? Innocent, because I identify as innocent. But the other party cannot identify as innocent. Only we can identify. The other ones, we will identify them as how we want. But they can't have the same right. That tells me they are the subordinates. But the Russians should not be. I think no country should be subordinate, as no human being should be subordinate until it's voluntary. And you say, well, it's voluntary. Well, I can pressure you into being my voluntary subordinate, little by little. And then what are you going to do? You're going to pull us the December 7th, 1941. You're going to pull that and say, hey, we were attacked. Well, what did you do? Nothing. All right, move on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, 2 more clicks, find out, read, and you're going to find out what I'm talking about. Beijing and Minsk have been tightening their ties in recent years under Chinese leader Xi Jinping and Belarusian president, he's president now, he's not a dictator, Alexander Lukashenko, both autocrats and strong allies of Russia's Vladimir Putin. Who created this alliance? The smart guys in the West, the experts, the advisors, the guys with the cigars and the bourbon, in the smoky room with the ladies of the night. All right, so that's the first one. Who made a mistake? These guys did. Second one, Military Times. This is from July 9th, 2024. Pentagon postpones army exercise amid diplomatic tensions with Georgia. I covered this in a video yesterday, and the Georgian president who had dual citizenship, she was a French-born Georgian, nothing wrong with that. But for me, knowing shit, when you have things like this and doors are open for you just like that and push forward, that tells me things were calculated from other sides, other areas. But hey, what do I know? The Pentagon on Friday, quote unquote, indefinitely called off a U.S. Army exercise in the country of Georgia. Why? I think the Russians told them, we're going to queue up. Back the fuck off, we're going to invade Georgia. Is that what you want? And then we're going to destroy you. Can't help them. With what? Through what? Through Turkey? Really? How are you going to help Georgia? Look over the map. To the Black Sea, we're going to queue you up. And this guy say, I guess, or maybe with something even tougher than that. Which neighbors Russia and the U.S. officials review further cooperation with the country. The training event, dubbed Noble Exercise. Didn't I tell you we are noble because we say we are? That's the way it works in life. My God, that's why these guys destroyed the Western civilization. And I'm not talking about that so-called Judeo-Christian. That's not that civilization. It's something else. Okay, we're talking about the Roman, Greco-Roman civilization. That's what I'm talking about. They destroy. We used to determine who's who and what's what based on evidence, based on behavior, based on outcome. Hey, he's a good trainer. What's the outcome? Are you a good fighter? What did you do? Nowadays, it's like they change it into I identify as the burning bush in the fucking desert and a goat in a. Let's move on. All right. The training event, dubbed Noble Exercise 2024, was scheduled to run from July 25 to August 6 and normally takes place because it's every year, takes place in Vaziani, the Camp Norio training areas outside the capital city of Tbilisi. The Pentagon said the Georgian government has spread misinformation that the United States and other allies had pressured the country to open a second front on its border with Russia. What have I been barking here like a retard? That's exactly what I said. Why? The evidence. Oh, no, they identify as noble and the truth tellers. Officials in Georgia also accused U.S. officials of attempting 2 coups against the country's ruling party, exactly with the so-called Russian NGO law, which initially was done by the Americans in 1930s. Go read about it. But hey, it's the Russian spy law. There were 2 attempts, and that was... So remember, threats, blackmail, regime change. What's next? Direct bombardment. These are America's, unfortunately, since 1991, their diplomatic tools in their toolbox. That's why, unfortunately, they lost this, they lost flair, they lost everything else that needs in the diplomacy. You want to read that? You want to see diplomacy? Go in the past, in the 1970s, maybe 80s. you see diplomacy. Or nowadays you can see Lavrov, you can see Sciarto, and you can see Mr. Dr. Jaishankar of India. I know, all bad dudes, but hey, sometimes you learn from garbage, right? Just kidding. The United States government has determined that this is in an inappropriate time to hold a large-scale, how large, military exercise in Georgia. And quote, the Pentagon said in a statement, in 2022, during the military exercise in Georgia, some 2,400 service members from the United States and 19 other nations participated. Russia too? No. This year, a combination of approximately 3,000 US and allied troops were scheduled to participate in the drills. What happened? I think the Russians threatened them. Said, if you set, it's too sensitive, if you set foot on that, we're gonna kill you up. I think that's exactly what happened. No evidence, just a gut feeling, and I think I'm entitled as 51% of our population, if you know what I'm talking. Hey, man, do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I have gut feelings. Gut feelings trump reason and evidence and facts. I got a gut feeling, I identify, good to go. Pussified society. Next one, we should not allow that to happen. Third topic, US says it has raised concerns with India about its ties with Russia. So what do you want them to do? Follow their interest or follow your orders? Well, India, you can push it around. They tried over there threats, blackmail, and regime change in India. As I always say, they find a violation. But they always find violations outside. And I'm talking about human rights violations. Religious rights were not, women's rights were now, right? They always look outside. It's always one country who tells everybody, hey, you're not good enough because I'm perfect. And nobody can tell me shit. Have you heard ever, I don't know, a country like Bangladesh telling the United States of America, hey, how about your shit over there with your garbage woke? Why do people can get fired over there if they just have free speech? And say, hey, you know what, this is garbage, that's garbage, you can identify, I disagree with that. Huh? How about that? Smack. Why? Because that's the way the world functions. I'm stronger, I tell you what the fuck to do. Everything else is just to give the baboons the impression that's a rule of law that they have to follow, not those guys. The race concerns. After you told them about that Sheik guy that was killed in Canada, you joined, and the guys in California again, the guys who try to overthrow a government and break a country that you have in your country. Is that what it is? And you accuse the Modi that is not respecting the this community and that community's rights. Is that what it is? Backed up, fuck off. And you backed up Pakistan, a military dictatorship, by the way, against the Indians in the 70s and 80s and 90s. What are you talking about? When Pakistan is the democracy right now. But if CIA wants, it's just going to push a button and the military will get in and going to show the Pakistani friends what democracy really is in their country. So, raise concerns. It's like a teacher who raises concerns, what's going on here? Raises concerns with a student. I'm very concerned with your mathematics grades, Johnny. And Johnny, that's the way that freaking is, man. But the child cannot raise concerns with the teacher. I raise concerns that you are very unfair and you are really, really dumb. Smack. You get smacked like, examples. Not like that. You can be more polite, but I gave you just straight thing. Why? I'm in charge, not you. So US still thinks he's got it. You don't. They are digging our grave, not US's. US will break away. That's my prediction. If things continue as they continue, as they are. So let's see what do we have here. You can make up who is the author of this article. Simon Lewis. All right. The United States has raised concern with India about its relationship with Russia. I thought that countries can have a relationship with whomever they want, free countries, sovereign countries, by United Nations. They can have, but you raise concerns that what, you don't like it? What are you going to do? Impose sanctions on me? Yeah. Try and overthrow? Yeah. Thank you very much. That's the rules-based world order the Americans are talking about. Remember, my fellow Americans, you are in my boat. You're not in their boat. So when I say Americans, I'm talking about those guys in charge of you and I and our families and our futures. Everything that we strive for is going to we're going to be taken away by those guys. All right? So you can say, oh, this fucking blah, 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 blah. Well, go and see how much you are on their team. You know when you are on their team? When they send you to fight their wars or they come from your taxes. That's when you are on their team. Other than that, you are the same as me. We are not the we are the okay? So, relationship with Russia amid Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. A U.S. Department spokesperson told Reuters on Monday in response to questions about meeting between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin. You lost these guys too through your diplomacy. Blackmail threats and regime change doesn't work, that it seems like. India has faced pressure from the West, because you have the monolithic West, to distance itself from Moscow after Russia invaded Ukraine. New Delhi has thus far resisted the pressure, citing its long-standing ties with Russia and its economic needs. And maybe I'm just saying, maybe they think maybe these guys are right and maybe they think those guys are right and wrong and these guys are also right and wrong. Maybe they think that way, like they're rational. They don't think in black and white, plus minus only. It's everything or nothing, all or nothing. Maybe they know better. I think that's exactly what the Indians are doing. They know better because, they have a civilization not from, 250 years ago or something. They have it longer than that. And that tells us. Well, that's the way it is, my friends. Georgia got the warning. The Americans backed off again, lost, right? Right. That's one. And then you got Modi and Putin. And then you got China and Belarus conducting military exercises in Europe. Fantastic. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Don't kill the messenger. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.